Hi everybody. This is video 7 and I wanted to check in with you about the recent assignments that you've submitted and what you're going to be focusing on this week. Believe it or not, we are heading into the final 2 weeks of this course. Right, this is just a half semester course, so in fact it goes by really quickly and we're already sort of heading towards those final assignments. So let me talk a little bit first about the last couple of things you submitted. I think you're doing really amazing work and I'm learning so many interesting things from what you're posting. So first on discussion 5, which was about sort of internship and volunteer opportunities, I think a lot of you identified some really great stuff. If you haven't already, I encourage all of you to look through the posts put up there by your classmates because it may very well be something that's of interest to you as well. There's a lot of great opportunities that you all were able to identify. What I will say is, for some of you, you sort of talked in more general terms about places you might intern or might volunteer. And what I've encouraged you to do in my comments is to make sure that you actually post a specific internship opportunity or volunteer opportunity. You can either post the actual link to that opportunity or just a brief description is fine as well. But the reason I suggest you do that instead of just saying like, I would like to intern at this institution is, some places have internship opportunities or volunteer opportunities already set up and others don't. So even a place that seems like it would be great to sort of volunteer at, sometimes they sort of allow for people to do that and sometimes they don't. So it's important to figure out what opportunities are actually out there, right? What are the if they do have an internship program to begin with, and then what are the requirements, right? Is it something that you can readily get into? If there's 1,000 people applying for 3 slots, that's a different scenario than if they really need help and they're sort of really eager to take people on. Is it paid or unpaid? How many hours a week do they need, right? Some internships, there's kind of a learning curve and they want you to be there for 10 or more hours a week. And for some of you that may be possible and for others it may not. Some have a minimum requirement of 6 months to be an intern, which again may be great or not great depending on your situation. So please look at my comments. And again, if you sort of had a more general take on where you might intern or volunteer, please find some specific opportunities. And again, read through your colleagues' postings because there's just so many interesting, wonderful things out there that might be of interest to you as well. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is your resume and statement of purpose drafts, which look absolutely fantastic. And again, I've given you feedback, so please read through that. The next step really is just to sort of take on board what I've suggested and reflect more on sort of your own take on how that document looks and work on polishing it up, right? So you're going to be completing that sort of set of revisions and turning in a second or final, as it were, final for this course at least, final draft at the end of this week that we're starting right now. So I've really been impressed with what you've done so far. Please take a look at my feedback. If you have other questions as far as the feedback I've given you, please don't hesitate to reach out. For those of you particularly who did a statement of purpose, a resume is a challenge too. The statement of purpose is a real sort of certain kind of a challenge. So for those of you who wrote statements of purpose, which I really enjoyed reading, please don't feel disappointed if I had a bunch of suggestions for things that I'd like to see you change. Statements of purpose always require multiple drafts to get sort of to the right point, right? So this is your first draft. It'll probably take a few drafts, and we can certainly push the ball forward just in these next couple of weeks. So again, if you'd like to meet one-on-one about your statement or your resume, I'm happy to do that. Just shoot me an email and we can find a time, okay? But please do read my feedback and take it on board as you're doing the revisions for the final version of your resume or statement, which are due later this week, okay? The final thing that I wanted to touch on is there are a couple of other assignments that we'll be completing in these final 2 weeks of the course. One of them is the networking assignment, which I had put on the schedule for this coming week, right? I have a handout I want you to fill out in sort of reflecting on a conversation with a recent alum or an early career person in your career field of choice. I'm actually going to push the due dates for those back until the end of the course. I think it would be good to give you a little bit more time. And I'm also working with the alumni office at Northeastern to identify recent grads in your program so that I can also help you find someone. So what we'll be working on the last week of class, which is next week, is contributing to a wiki, and I'll have more info on that that I'll send out in email in a couple of days. But I did want to give you a little bit more time, again, in the interest of you being able to actually identify someone to speak to, okay? So what that means is, in this coming week, right, really what you're going to be focusing on is completing your resume or statement of purpose, okay? So you're not going to have to worry about the networking thing. You can if you want to, but if you'd like to just focus solely on that final draft of that document that you're working on, that will be your sole focus, and then you can work on the networking assignment either this week or next week, okay? So again, I'm really pleased with what you've been working on. Super exciting. You guys have so many great ideas about what you want to do. It's just really wonderful to see the incredible careers that you're pursuing and all the things you're doing to get there. Drop me a line if you want to talk more about it individually, but I'll wish you luck in finishing up, and we'll talk again soon. Alrighty, bye-bye.